Welcome to Multichain Nation. Today we have Tommy Flowers with us, co-founder of Trustware. Welcome, Tommy.
Thank you, Rudy. And dude, I am stoked to be here. It's been a long time coming, wanted to do more things like this, and I really appreciate the opportunity.
It's going to be a blast to talk about what you're doing because as a Boston native, just like I am, we have a lot going on in this scene, and I want to know everything about Trustware. So tell me about it.
Yeah. So Trustware actually started. I was not a co-founder. From Jesse and Jonathan. So they met at Techstars, and I think they bonded over why is crypto so difficult to use still? Like we know it's cheaper, we know it's faster. Why is it so difficult to use? Um, and that problem starts even outside of crypto. If you think about different payment methods, you have digital dollars in different apps, but a lot of them don't speak to each other. You can't send a dollar here to a dollar there, and then the issue just gets compounded with crypto. Because the chains work similar to the dollars where they don't talk to each other. But you have value here and you want to move value here. So, what is the issue? So Trustware was born out of sort of a need for a holistic solution that addresses three different pillars. One is in usability, one is in security, and one is in accessibility. So they spent, I think 6 to 9 months doing research about the best solutions for each of those pillars. Um, and what we found is that there are a lot of partial solutions in crypto, but there's no holistic solution that solves these issues for people. You still, I don't know if you've tried onboarding people to crypto. I had my dad buy a
Yeah.
little bit of crypto because I'm so crazy that he finally just said, "All right, fine. Like my son is a lunatic. He must really, maybe he knows what he's talking about, maybe he doesn't, but I can't let him go alone." Um,
He still
and
loves you,
and
right?
you
That's good.
yeah, no, it's crazy. So he buys, a stable coin on one exchange and tries to send it to another because we're going to practice self-custody. And it's the chain's incompatible, and the network's incompatible. And we send a test transfer and it doesn't work. And it's just insane. And I think a lot of us in crypto take for granted that we know how things work, that even as simple as operating a MetaMask, browser extension. Um, it's just way too confusing still. When you're sending a payment, you need to know the wallet address, you need to know the chain, and you need to know the token. If you get any of those wrong, you lose your funds forever. And it's irreversible, right? Like that's the pro and con of the blockchain. So what we do at Trustware is we give you a universal identity. We strip away a non-human readable wallet address and turn it into a human readable identity, such as Rudy.ox. That becomes your universal identity. You no longer need a chain or a token in order to confirm the transfer. So how this works is when you sign up for Trustware, you get your universal.ox username, and then you will have your profile. We call them payable social profiles. It has a very familiar feel to other social profiles, except it has our smart routing logic.
Mhm.
So the way it works, and we could get into how we use Axelar next, is that somebody will click send payment on my profile, and they are able to send any token on any chain to my profile. We leverage Axelar and Squid router to make this possible. And what it's really doing is just bundling the bridge and the swap all into one transaction. So it takes away the manual steps from the user. And if you actually send a payment through our profiles, so for example, I could send, something, an asset on Ethereum, let's say a meme coin on Ethereum. And let's say you want stable coins on Solana because there's this new great DeFi protocol. I could go on to, I could go on to Rudy.ox's profile and send them my wrapped Ethereum, and it would show up as a stablecoin on Solana for them, as long as they had their Solana wallet as part of their profile.
So I can
Um,
ask it to always convert anything that comes into a different asset.
yes, so as soon as you register, you'll have a single wallet on your profile. The different tab other than profile is the account manager. So all you need is that one wallet. But what really is effective and helps to show the power of Trustware is when you add several wallets, because it's really an account manager. So let's say you signed up with a MetaMask wallet, right? I could still send you Solana to your MetaMask. It would just have to automatically swap into a token that you can receive. So you will receive the value, you may not receive the token.
So we're sending assets to my address, rudy.ox. Now,
Yep.
is that address something you just send to directly? So from my MetaMask or whatever wallet I'm using, I'll just send
Yeah.
it to
So
that.
that is
Like
a
that's
great
the only
question.
address I need.
Yeah, yeah. So as it stands right now, we do not have a partnership with MetaMask, right? Like
Yeah.
Trustware is not integrated with MetaMask. However, if you signed up for Trustware with your MetaMask, your wallet immediately becomes cross-chain payable. So for example, I sign up with my MetaMask to Trustware. Anyone that sends me a payment, they can now send any asset on any chain to my MetaMask through Trustware. You are not sending it, you're not typing in rudy.ox in MetaMask because that requires an integration with them.
Hmm.
However, the big point of that is all of these, wallet companies are fighting to keep liquidity within their ecosystem, right? And they'll
Yeah.
probably add some sort of bridge or protocol integration that allows users to swap into within their browser, right? A
That's
lot
the
of
money
the
maker.
a lot of the revenue for wallets is the self swaps, and they all just want to lock money in. Um, so when you integrate a protocol, you need to add a new screen for your users. You need to teach them how to swap. You need to teach them how to bridge. You need to show all those fees and everything like that. With Trustware, we are an identity level integration. That means that knowing what Trustware is, it means that you don't have to add all of those screens into your wallet in order to allow this liquidity to connect to you from all these different places. All they would need to do is allow us to type rudy.ox into the wallet address and integrate our API so that it has the smart routing logic, and that's it. They don't need to add swapping and bridging screens. They don't need to educate. You would need to say, hey, sign up for a Trustware profile, but beyond that, we'll handle everything else for them. So we really have a co-opt, not compete sort of motto to Trustware, where we're not, we have competitors like everybody else, but we are really just trying to connect all the different chains and assets for whoever wants to use it, whether that's a business, whether that's a Web3 company, whether that's an individual. We really just want to make everything work for people. And we've found a lot of success being able to approach, smaller wallets and say, look, you can sign up right now. You can have your users sign up right now on Trustware with your wallet, and they are instantly cross-chain payable. And that's very attractive to people, right? Because they want to lock liquidity into their ecosystem, which we may or may not agree with, but that's how they make their money. And we can already do that for them. So it's pretty much a no-brainer at this stage for them to at least tip off their users that you have an option to be able to receive, assets from any chain using Trustware.
So this is similar to ENS, but ENS is strictly for Ethereum network.
Yeah, so that goes back to the kind of holistic solution. ENS is great, right? Like I have several .eth names. I was born in Ethereum NFTs, so I'll always have a soft spot for ETH. It's taken us on quite the ride for the past few years. Um, but yeah, so ENS has some great features and some not great features. One is you have to pay a recurring fee, right? When you
Mhm.
buy a .ox, it is a one-time fee and you own it forever. There's no recurring fees. The security, so you can look up someone's .eth name and see the wallet that it's holding. You can't do that with the .ox. All of your wallet links are kept private.
That's
Currently,
good.
if somebody sends you a payment on the Block Explorer, it is not obfuscated away and you can see it. But how we're going to solve that later this year is deploying a smart contract, which will then transfer over the funds. And there's a few different few different protocols that will split out the funds so it's so you can't tell, which funds are going to who. And you send $100 payment, it'll split them into like several smaller random payments. And then when you add in, 20 transactions going on every 10 minutes, it's just impossible to know who's who. So yeah, there's a few different learnings that we took from ENS, and we tried to improve on them for Trustware.
Yeah, it's nice how you say like you're really focusing on privacy and identity. So I mean, that's where crypto is going now because we're used to it in a way where it's public blockchain. Everything is for everyone to see and witness, but you are in control of your funds. Now, as we're developing as a society and learning that it's not so nice that everyone can see everything that I have. Like if you go to anyone's .eth address, that's everything they have, and everything they've ever sent anywhere. So it's kind of good and bad. There's a
Yeah.
negative about it. I mean, if it's a corporate company that's public, then yeah, I want to see everything they're doing. If it's a government entity using a .eth address, yeah, I want to see all the funds that they're receiving and where it's going to. But if it's an individual who's just trying to save their money, then there's that like judgment over them if they have a certain amount of funds, which is just not useful.
So this
So
this gets to my favorite part of Trustware, and really like why we are building a cross-chain social payments platform. We're really just social because we are cross-chain. If you have the ability to talk to everybody, you're social, right? So we might as well build some cool features to empower that. But you hit the nail on the head, right? We want our data to be private. Financial, yes, obviously should be private, but also like our personal data, right? Everyone's becoming much more aware that there are several dozens of companies that have way too many data points on us.
yeah,
And we want to protect that, and we should have the right to protect it and have transparency. Um, However, we are also all social people. Most people have some form of social media. We have these online personas that aren't necessarily tied to who we are, really as a person, but we have fun with it. And some people, are doxxed, some people aren't doxxed. But we have these online personas, and we have to keep them separate than our financial data because it's a little bit scary world, right? You don't want someone to know your entire wallet history is tied to this persona. So we have to keep our data and our social personas separate. And when you keep them separate, you can't leverage them to drive growth for each other. If I have all of this capital, and I'm this person online, but I don't want to reveal that, someone who might have a great opportunity for me to invest in just isn't going to know, right? Because I don't feel comfortable sharing that. And on
yeah,
the same side, if I'm this big, social, influencer, and if I have to keep all of the financials separate, it's just you can only get so far having an incomplete puzzle, right? So what Trustware does is we allow you to leverage your social network with your financial data. Um, so your wallets will be tied to your .ox, right? But nobody else can see that. Um, and what it really does, so for a creator, for example, and I've spoken to hundreds of them, really, really just good people. I feel like they're some of the more genuine, honest, hard workers that are trying to bring value in different ways. Um, but okay, so I'm an artist and I'm going to make a commission piece for somebody and they're going to send me 200 bucks. How do they pay me, right? I need to provide a wallet address on a specific chain. Maybe it's a burner wallet and I have to track, my 20th burner wallet. Maybe it's my main wallet, but then that person can now see my entire history, see all my assets, see every payment I've ever sent, and that's just not right. So privacy and security are up there with the most important things for us. We're all, in crypto because we believe it's going to solve a lot of issues for people. We are here to empower individuals and kind of decentralize controls over our data and our finances. Um, and yeah, I mean, we have other security features too. For example, Why do we all keep so much money in our hot wallets? It's just what we do, but it's not a good thing to do. I have however much in a MetaMask, and at any point I could just click one link, and it would end up being drained.
Yeah,
And
it's
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 really just
definitely
because we haven't found a better solution for it, and we haven't been taught a convenient way to do it. And that's another thing we're trying to solve through a personal multi-sig vault, um, which would be really cool. I'm excited to roll that out in a few months.
nice.
But yeah, trying to like re-educate people about how to use something is a tall task. So we'll see how that goes.
It's gonna be smooth eventually. Like it took a while for people to use credit cards itself before we had
Yeah.
to. I don't know if anyone remembers this, but they used to have to actually just use a device that carbon copied your credit card. It was not a
Have
scan.
you
It was
did you
not
see that
electronic.
commercial of what was it like people in the 80s or 90s at a Burger King? I don't know if it was before that. And they were like, "Oh, you could just use this credit card." And everyone's like,
Yeah,
"What? Like just use cash, you weirdo." We're
it
definitely
changes.
at that point again right now.
Yeah, it happens every technological revolution. So this is crypto's time and
Yeah.
AI's time. So yeah, you're working with a bunch of different blockchains, different protocols. You're trying to integrate everywhere, being social. And I know you're using Axelar to help make this happen. So how does Axelar come to play here?
Yeah. So Axelar really fits into, several of the pillars, but it really comes down to the accessibility. So Trustware actually started off as a vault, and now we are moving to, we became this smart routing payments platform, and we're going to roll out a vault. Um, but I know that Jesse and Jonathan, they did a bunch of research. They settled on Axelar, and I have to say that was the best. I think probably the best decision the company has ever made. If you look back, that they decided to build out our architecture leveraging Axelar almost 2 years ago. Um, Things move so fast in crypto, and to see Axelar still doing so well, just full of so many great people, constantly expanding. They're like our North Star for how to run a business. Um, we integrated with the cross-chain transfer protocol, which is for applications. And then along with Squid Router, who also uses Axelar for their general message passing. Squid aggregates the liquidity, Axelar connects the chains, and then that's how Trustware can exist. Um,
Wow,
One of the reasons we loved Axelar was because of their hub and spoke architecture, where if one bridge is having issues, it doesn't affect the whole network. They can really isolate any issues that go on. We adopt their sort of KYC and like failed transfer licensing. How if a transfer fails, the person will still get Axel USD. So there are tons of reasons that Axelar was the decision, and they have to this day are still just the leaders in our eyes of how to build out an interoperability protocol.
that's amazing how you made it sound so simple too. That's just like the way to go, and they handle a lot for you.
Yeah.
And I've been speaking to many projects using XR, so that resonates throughout. Like they are the North Star. They help each project really go from startup to a working business, and not just in the technical business development sense, but also implementation. And how was your team? What was their experience like when they were actually implementing technically with XR?
Yeah, so I actually can't speak to this a ton. I joined about a year ago, and they had already implemented Axelar. However, I have spoken with and worked with a bunch of people in Axelar, so I can just speak what it's like to work with the team and kind of the communication side. But like I said, those people are great. Like everyone from Sergio to Galen to Ellen. We joined the Builders. We were accepted to the Builders Collective. I've talked to a bunch of people in the Artist Collective. Like really, just the entire ecosystem is just like you said. They want to help people. They want to share their knowledge. They want to give you advice. I asked Galen, the head of marketing, came over and gave a not speech, but we had a discussion about marketing. And I actually asked him a question because there are so many headlines in crypto, right? Any day there's three or four like mind-blowing things going on. Um, and it was at a time where a bigger company was doing some shady things.
Yeah.
And I asked him his stance about calling somebody out on the timeline directly. We are a tiny little startup. We have a not super active, less than 300 follower Twitter. Am I really going to post out calling this, 400,000 follower company? And I talked about kind of treading it safely and maybe speaking in general, because I had a fear of, isolating people who are invested. And he actually told me the opposite. He was like, if you're going to take a stance, take a stance. Call people out, and if people don't like you for it at the time, if you stick to your guns and that's who you are, like they will respect you. And I really, really appreciated that stance. I just feel like they really understand how our ecosystem works and how to, it's very easy. I'm very much on the user slash culture side of blockchain as well. Like I said, started with NFT communities. It's very easy to get down about the amount of, kind of hate and insults and just craziness that goes on the timeline. So to
Yeah.
just see people be able to, face that head on and have strategies for it and not be afraid of isolating people to stand up for what is right. And then to hear that coming from, this big powerhouse in crypto, was just really inspiring.
Yeah, and I've noticed that so much in crypto too, like you were saying. And socially, even like mainstream media headlines, it's pretty negative towards crypto. You just
Yeah.
hear people talking poorly about each other. Everyone wants to say their chain is the bigger chain, and it's just not what I like came into crypto for. It's not how I was introduced to crypto. It's not who I follow. It's like that's not the community that I'm part of. So when
Yeah.
I see that happening, it's kind of disheartening that's just what people are experiencing, and I'm here just saying, no, it's not what crypto is about. It's about freedom and financial freedom and security and safety and sharing work globally and people coming together from all sorts of the world and being able to collaborate, and there's so many amazing things that you can go on and on about. And in general, like most people are good people. Most people just want to help each other. Most people just want to live a simple life and be able to transact with each other without having peering third parties kind of looming over you without your say. But that's not what we hear about mostly. So it's like you
Yeah.
don't hear about the
No,
good things.
I think even those of us in crypto wrote know right now it's not a great landscape for people getting in. I feel like the stories that end up trickling over to mainstream media or Gen Z places like TikTok are always the I got rich quick, or this is the
That's the
next
worst.
1000x. It's not a great landscape because people come in, and I was fortunate enough to be able to lose thousands of dollars and still stick it out and continue teaching myself and be able to push this technology forward. But a lot of people aren't in that situation, and what ends up happening is they show up, they listen to this person that has a ton of followers because that makes sense to them, and they lose all their money.
Yeah.
And that's just not what crypto is supposed to be. And it's really on us to start to fight that change. And people have been fighting that change. And I think that comes down to just being more vocal about, what we're giving attention to, what we're putting our money into. Um, and kind of rallying around the people who are good people and are genuinely interested in bettering our ecosystem and technology, rather than just for their own financial gain. We all want to make money. Like no one, very few
No
people
one
would
says
say
no
I
to money,
don't
right?
want to make money,
Yeah.
but you can really tell the people who that is not their main reason for being here, and you got to keep those people around.
Yep. And keeping the community involved. So what is next for Trustware and how can your community members get involved?
Yeah, so we've been in slow growth phase longer than I'd like. I feel like every month I'm planning for some big marketing pushes, and then we have to fix more of the product and validate things and talk to partners and all these different
Slow
things.
and steady.
So We are reaching the end of Q2 now. This should be towards the end of our slow growth phase. We're just finishing out our core. So we have those payable social profiles, but for example, we're coming out with threads where it's just like a Facebook wall where you can create threads, you can post pay gated content, you can just have different offerings on your site instead of just a payment endpoint with a bio and profile picture, you know. Beyond that, you know, like our address management, the account management, it works right now. It works great, but it could be laid out better and give people kind of more clarity. That's a new feature for people. It doesn't really exist in other places where you link a bunch of wallets and set your priorities for where your, you know, for your routing preferences. So we just need to go back in and that's coming with address management 2.0, just giving a much more clear uh, way of using Trustware. And then once our core is done, we really just get into adding use cases. So that depends on feedback. And it's feedback from individuals or feedback from potential partners and businesses. So everything like a DApp store. So within Trustware, you've already signed in with your wallet. You should be able to access a bunch of partner ecosystems within Trustware. So for example, Squid Router, you can go into our DApp store and we have a little widget for Squid Router where you can just make a swap right there in Trustware. But real, what would be really cool in our kind of midterm vision is, you know, when you have a new, let's say a new L1 or new L2 comes out, you know, and you want to check it out, you have to download a new wallet, you have to download new apps, you have to connect to new protocols,
I'm
and it's
already
just,
exhausted.
yeah, I just don't want to do it, you know, as no matter how much people are talking about it. But what if within Trustware, let's say this new L1 comes out, we'll just spin you up a wallet in Trustware that's already connected on the chain. You just click, yes, I want this wallet, and you have it. You know what? We'll actually fund $5 for it because we're running a promotion. Go check out their app. Go check out their new DApp, whether it's DeFi or collections or whatever it is, all within Trustware. You don't have to track all these new passwords. You don't have to download all these new things. You can get the light version experience with Trustware, and look, it was great. And then if you want to go further, you know, you can go further. But it's really just, you know, we found that so many people in crypto don't really use crypto products. Like they just buy tokens and hold them.
Yeah.
Um, and I mean, there's been a good amount of, at least a handful of very successful projects that have come out this year. Um, but it seems like it's only going to accelerate from here. You know, we see all these new wallets coming out that have kind of native DeFi in them, where your savings account is just earning yield in stables, things like that. And we really want to democratize these experiences and not just silo them to the people that understand the technology that we take for granted. When you know 98% of the world wouldn't know the first thing to get this to work.
Yeah, it's definitely a challenge now convincing people to play around with crypto outside of finance. I mean, everything's attached to money, so it's
Yeah,
hard to detach it. But once the blockchain is integrated with more day-to-day activities and day-to-day services and products, you start realizing how it can be useful for actual transactions with meaning rather than transactions just to pass dollars.
yeah. No, we are quickly moving to a world where this needs to be the case. And we, you know, there's a lot of different options for where we might end up, but we know where we want to end up. And that really comes down to just fighting day in and day out, in whatever your strength is, right? Like Jonathan, our CTO, his strength is in the technology and in the development, and he brings out his caring for decentralization and empowerment of individuals in his lane in that, right? Whereas Jesse's more on the business side and the investor side, and showing how, you know, the work that we're doing is has a lot of potential to connect not only individuals but also all of these businesses to all of this liquidity that they so desperately want.
Mm-hmm.
And then on my side, on the user side and on the culture side, you know, that really comes out with educating people about why this matters. You know, it's a little bit tough because if you just write, you know, this is why interoperability is so important. Everyone's going to be like, shut up, stay loudio, whatever, whatever the recent mind share is. Um, but yeah, I think it just comes down to, finding your strengths and, pushing crypto forward and giving people your attention and money that truly deserve it. Think about where you're putting your resources. And you know, if those are the people that you want to see in charge of the next internet. So for community members to get involved, there's a few different places. You can follow our Twitter. It should be Trustware_IO. It's a little bit inactive, but by the end of the month, we will start our marketing push. You could also follow me on Twitter, Tommy Flowers. I think my handle is Tommy Flowers. The E is a three. Um, I'm somewhat active there. That's where I kind of got my start in Web3, and I'm connected to a lot of project founders and different KOLs there.
Nice.
Otherwise, you can just go to trustware.io, check out our site. All our kind of public facing documentation is being updated. So we'll have a brand new site within the next couple weeks. We'll have all of our public documentation going. That's really been the push this quarter, has been to just get all of the tooling and education and, kind of a brand new layout. I think the site before was built by developers, and you can definitely tell. So we're coming in, putting a little design on it, and it should be, we'll get our 100x in how much better our next website is soon. So I'm excited
Nice.
for that.
So get it now. Thank you, Tommy, so much. And we'll link everything in the notes. So I appreciate you coming by and I'm excited for Trustware.
Thanks so much, Rudy. I'm excited for you. I'm excited for Axelar. I'm excited for the future, man. There's no better
Yeah.
time to be alive. It's insane the times we're living in. I struggle day in and day out not to be like a doomsday AI is going to get us all. But I
Blockchain
think
will save us.
yeah, I think the human connection is very underestimated still. Um, I think
Yeah.
your friends and the people working on the same things as you that care about the same things. I think there has never been a more important time to work together and to listen to each other and to link arms with the leaders of the future.
Yeah, exactly. Well put. Thank you, Tommy.
Yeah, of course.